So, Aloha, and today I just want to go over a common mistake a lot of teams make when they're playing Dive. And many teams are just too bloodthirsty when they're playing Dive comps. They always look for kills, they always look to hop on the enemy backline, and this is in no small part helped by the fact that many people think that Dive is all about just jumping the backline, getting kills on backline, getting out. And that reduces a really complicated comp to actually execute to something that's like too good to be true, too simple to be true. Dive is not about jumping targets. Dive is not only about getting kills. Like what Dive is about is controlling space. That's what Dive is primarily about, controlling space. And Overwatch is a game that revolves around the objective. Like obviously, you capture the objective, you win the game. You prevent the enemy from walking on the objective. You also like win the game that way. So, like if you cap point that is. So, knowing this, what should your basic strategy in dive be? Like, let's say you're playing first control fight and you don't know what to do. And like many teams would just resort to immediately going in, regardless of the comp, regardless of the situation, immediately looking for a kill on the back line. And that's just wrong. Like that's just wrong most of the time. Because the enemy isn't dumb. The enemy isn't just going to, if they're good, like they aren't just going to like put their Ana in a dumb position. They aren't gonna put their DPS in a dumb position. They are going to try like play to live, play it safe. And most of the time, to actually kill backlines, you need to have already done damage, or you need to have a ridiculously good setup around the enemy to actually get the kill. So if you can't do that, what do you do? Well, it's simple. You look to control the objective, and you look to control the pathways to the objective. So let me like show you an example. So right here, let's say you're playing a ball comp versus a double bubble comp. And we have Ball, we have D.Va, we have Tracer Sombra, all really good heroes for controlling and contesting space. Because if you have your Ball and Tracer on a flank, the enemy has to, if they want to move into the area controlled by your Ball Tracer, they have to they have to look both ways. They have to actually clear your Ball Tracer. However, you also have a Zen, which allows you to punish them for doing that. You can Discord anyone who tries to clear your Ball Tracer. You can do damage. You do a lot of damage. And Sombra is just really good at controlling space in general. Anything that walks into Sombra's LOS just isn't able to play the game. So you have a comp that's so good at controlling space that you should just do what it specializes in, controlling space. So, for example, right here, the double bubble team is probably going to look to rotate to around Mega, probably like around here. Well, you can't really engage them in here. It's a really enclosed area. Winston really loves fighting in these areas, as well as Zarya, as well as Brig. And it's just going to be a bloodbath if you just try to look for a kill early into the fight. You have to realize that if you're looking for kills, you are saying that you have a big advantage in the fight, and you are going to be able to actually get the kill without counterplay, without getting punished. Like you can't just go in randomly. You have to go in for a reason. So, like, if you don't have a reason to go in, like their Ana isn't low, they haven't used cooldowns, or in a small room, what do you do? Well, in this example, you might have your Ball like set up like around this statue. You might have your Tracer like set up on another flank. You might have your Sombra like play within backline LOS and try to like spam them out, or at the very least help control this outside area of the point. And you position your Brig Zen so they can control this area while still being able to actually walk onto point. And your D.Va will probably just be holding space, trying to mark flankers and stuff. Just typical D.Va things. But and your Tracer should also contribute to that. But I might be just describing a setup to you, like how you set up for this point. But what I'm really describing is exactly the point of your comp, like exactly what you're supposed to do, exactly what your strategy should be oriented around, preventing them from touching the point. And how does this type of setup. So like we're not trying to kill the enemy. We're not even trying to look for engages. Like Ball could absolutely just be sitting around the statue and doing absolutely jack shit. Well, Ball isn't gonna do absolutely jack shit, even if it looks like Ball's out like doing jack shit, because we are preventing the enemy from walking onto point by doing this. Because if they try to, let's say the point unlocks, they they try to make a beeline to point. Well, you just have your ball tracer and like your other flankers. They just get ambushed. You're able to disrupt them as they move towards point. You're strong when you're trying to win the fight while they're rotating. Like if they're like moving from point A to point B, they're very vulnerable. Like they have no cover and like they can't secure their flanks really easily. And guess what? If they don't try to clear your ball tracer, they're just gonna die. Like they can't walk onto point. They can't walk into this outside area. So like you just get the kills if they decide to make a beeline to point, or you at least force out a lot of cooldowns, or if they like rightfully are scared to walk into this outside area because your ball tracer and Sombra are just going to run them over if they do. Well, guess what? You just walk onto point, and your flankers will have to pull back. But like the most important thing is you have point control. You're the defending team because you have point control. You can just like relax. Like you can just like set up your flankers around, for example, this area leading to the point, and if they decide to walk on the point, or if they decide to engage onto your backline, well, you just punish that so easily because you're playing around the objective, you're playing around controlling it, and you don't have to do anything special. Well, D.Va probably should be positioned a bit more further backwards, but like by orienting your strategy around objective control instead of being so bloodthirsty that you're trying to get kills all the time, you're just going to win more fights. You're going to be more comfortable in fights, and you're going to play a low risk, high reward style. Instead of like playing aggressive all the time, you're just playing to cap the one thing that matters in this game, the objective. And I'm not saying you can't go for kills if you see the opportunity. Like, for example, in the ball comp, you usually create opportunities with Pax, with Discord, with Zen, and like your ball tracer can absolutely try to follow up on that. But like that's not that's not actually like their only job. That's far from their only job. Their main job, first and foremost, is to set up on flanks that puts the enemy under pressure if they try to contest point. Like you want to every time you go into like a map, you want to position as a ball tracer in positions that makes the enemy feel pressured. If they decide, oh shit, the point's going to have to be capped, we have to touch. And like if you're positioning in a more aggressive position, like an over aggressive position, like for example, let's say in the previous example, you are positioning like as a tracer like inside the mega, you're positioning in the ball trying to get a kill, like and like your team's just playing overly aggressive. Well, you're playing so close to them, they can just clear you out, they can just peel your engage off. And like once they peel your engage off, or once like they clear your ball tracer, which is really easy if they're not unhealthy, well, guess what they're just going to do? They're just going to either walk on your backline because there's nothing preventing like the enemy from just moving to your backline. There's no ball tracer because they spent all their HP, all their cooldowns feeding. Or even worse and even more embarrassingly, they just walk on the point and like you can't control it. You haven't set up for that. So I just wanted to show an example like on like top down. Let's actually show a real example of this in action. We're gonna look at Shanghai versus Fuel when they try to like play the ball comp against a more like aggressive tempo like brawl comp. So, or this is just a 6-man comp with with a ball. Winston just gets poked out too easily. So like right here, let's take a look at how they play this. So as you can see, all Shanghai are really doing here is they're just trying to control this outside area of the point. And in doing so, all of Shanghai, they know what the goal is, what their strategy is. If you'll want to make a desperate beeline to point, we can just punish them. It's easy. We just walk on them as they're trying to make this desperate beeline to point. But if they don't try to contest point, well, guess what happens? We just walk on the point, and there's not much you can do about it. They have to try. They have to try to walk to point. Like, it's going to unlock in 19 seconds. However, like, Fuel decide to go for a more aggressive strat, and they actually look to complete their rotation and go on to Dragons' backline by surprise. Well, guess what Dragons just do? You can see Fleda's playing relatively close, Lip's playing relatively close because they don't need to like a Giga flank and like look to kill them here. Like, this space ultimately doesn't really matter that much. Like, this space doesn't matter. It's not the point, and it isn't even close to the point. So like, they don't really need to set up around. They don't need to set up around this mini. All they have to do, control here, to an extent control this space. Like, these are the two pathways to point that Fuel have, and they're chilling. Like, there's not much else they have to do. So Fuel are trying to threaten the backline of Dragons, and that doesn't mean Dragons just feed and die in this really small enclosed area. Dragons are just like, well, we're just going to continue doing our strategy here. Like, until you truly force us to fight, we're just going to focus on making your rotation to the objective hell. We're going to focus on making your rush of our backline hell. Like, you can't just Zerg rush our backline. You have to go through our flankers first. We're just, like, trying to control space. We're not trying to look for kills here. Like, you could stay here, and we just wouldn't be phased. Like, we wouldn't be phased if you're trying to run at us. If you don't kill us, because, like, you know, our flankers are controlling the rotations for that, and if you're not trying to control the point, well, guess what? We're just going to win the game. Like, we just take percentage off the clock, and you're just going to be poked out by our Zen. So, it's just a very simple strategy. Very simple. There's nothing complicated about Dragons' strategy. It's nothing so complicated that you can't even, like, do it in your ranked games even. Like, let alone, like, a scrim or, like, a tournament or, like, professional play. It's not complicated. Like, all Dragons are doing is kiting aggression, first of all. Like, really obvious. Like, you don't want to face tank this. But, like, they're not looking for fights. Like, Fate slams here, but that's just a disruptive slam to slow them down. And it doesn't get too much, but it doesn't really matter. Fate isn't committing to this. So, right here, take a look at all the cooldowns that Fuel have to use to contest Dragons' control at this point. Dragons are just trying to bleed Fuel's resources down. So, like, right here, in order to travel this long distance, Sparkle has to use teleport. Doha is in a really awkward position. You see, Doha's mistimed here, but more importantly, he's playing a comp that can't really just play the simple, I'm going to control the point type of style. His comp is not a dive comp, but it's not really a dive comp. It's more of a rush comp. But you see, Doha has to look for kills because he has, like, no Zen to control space. No, like, he has a ball, but, like, Moira Lucio, you have to, like, make plays, otherwise your backline is just useless. So, like, Doha just, like, has to teleport. And look at Fearless. Fearless has to use all of his CDs, and still doesn't get too much done. And Hanbin has to use DM to peel off all the damage that Dragon's just gonna do. It's not only, like, controlling space, it's, like, also aggressing on enemies that are trying to to intrude your space. Like, if they're trying to enter your space, you look to use your cooldowns to get them out of there. Like, you tell them, get the fuck out. And in doing so, like, for example, right here, let's look at what Hanbin has to do. Why did Hanbin have to use all this DM? So as you can see, Fate is trying to aggressively like attack Sparkle, which forces out a lot of DM. And like, as you can see, dragons keep kiting this, but like, dragons are using their abilities to just force players out of the space. So like right here, Izayaki is using Discord on Fearless. He's not looking for the backline. He's just looking for the players who are threatening to unhinge their hold of this space. In this case, like, the most important player is Fearless, because if Fearless survives here, Fearless is going to be able to either chill around here, like, you know, maybe he can position on this high ground, or push the tempo and try to get a kill. And like right here, as you can see, like, dragons are not even looking to take a fight. They just keep kiting. And right here, their goal, if Feel doesn't decide to just overchase here, is to rotate to potentially over here, or like, you know, maybe they can even rotate to here, and just keep controlling the point, like keep controlling the area around the point. It's so simple. Like they don't have to take a fight here. And guess what Feel just do to end this fight early? For Feel, like, it's not Feel that win this fight, it's dragons. But you see, Feel like realize, oh shit, like, we don't have control of the point. We have to make a play right now. But like, in doing so, they're walking into like multiple flankers. They're walking into D.Va. They're walking into Zen, Brig, who are playing very disciplined, and Sparkle just feeds. This is the easiest fight in the world. And right here, like, dragons, they don't decide to just like cap point now. The reason they're pushing in is because they actually have an advantage. They got Sparkle, and look at all of these like spent cooldowns. These cooldowns, without these cooldowns, Feel will just lose a fight. So they recognize, oh shit, now it's time to push the tempo. Now it's time to be bloodthirsty. Now we're going to look to push the advantage and win. But like, it just goes to show. It just goes to show, like, dragons, like, they're winning these fights, and, you know, some players get traded, but that's inevitable. That's Overwatch. Like, team fights are always going to be messy. But as long as dragons, they play out their strategy right, they get an advantage before the fight even starts. They just play around the point. See, it's so easy. So easy. Like, Feel are just unable to fight, and they have to give up point. And eventually, dragons just walk on point, and they cap it. Simple. So I just wanted to make this short video to show a really important concept you have to master in Dive, but it's probably one of the biggest improvements you, if you're playing on a team, can make, or even you as like a solo queue player. Instead of like feeding all the time, you can just chill. You can just look to play around point control, and wins will follow. It's easy. It's an easier strategy than just trying to look for kills all the time, trying to look for that miracle hack or that miracle Discord. Instead, all you're doing is like you're using your comps' mobility, you're using resources like Discord to capture the point, and in doing so, you win. You win the game. Capturing the objective is winning. That's an uncontroversial statement. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will come out with some more fundamentals like soon. Sorry for the lack of content lately, but I'm gonna shift my focus from more advanced reviews and stuff, just more simple principles you can apply in your game to really improve you or your team.